a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dreams. As I look upon my life, there's a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dream.
Right. Wow. It's been a long time since I spoke to you. Oh, since you saw me, right? So yeah, you are on the Talk with Joan show, Thursdays. And today, I'm so happy to be back on the show and with beautiful, the next generation ladies, moms, yay, men, and it's Mother's Day on Sunday. So I want to take the opportunity to wish all our moms a happy, blessed, beautiful Mother's Day for Sunday. I hope the children's going to spoil you. I hope you're not going to cook. I hope you're going to have lekker cookies, 4 o'clock tea, and this is all going to come from our daughters. Hi, so lekker man. And I have 2 daughters. They're going to cook and they're going to have a lekker time with me. So, not to waste any time, we have such a lovely program here today. And because it's a Mother's Day month, actually, we celebrated a month. Yeah, the whole month of May is Mother's Day. It's a Mother's Day month. So, without wasting any time, I would really love to intro my guest here in the studio. This is Arlene, August, and Evangelique Adams. And our theme or our topic for today, guys, they're going to do justice to this topic because they know, they experienced what we are talking about. So this is moms pushing beyond life's challenges. We all face challenges. We all go through stuff. And in today's life, wow, I'm sure you have a testimony. And therefore, I would really like to give them the opportunity just to introduce themselves and say who they are and where do they come from. And how many children do you have? So without wasting any time, I'm going to give over to Arlene just to introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Arlene August. Thank you for having me on the show, Pastor Joan, first of all.
Wow, thanks for coming.
I am a wife, an entrepreneur, a mother of 2 boys, boy mom.
Boys.
I have a 5-year-old and a 5-month-old baby, who is our latest addition, Ezra and Arden. I run a business alongside my husband. We help aspiring authors self-publish their books.
Yes.
And that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Wonderful, man. Welcome here. And thank you for accepting my invitation.
Thank you for having me.
I know we're going to have an awesome time. And then I'm going to give over to my only daughter, Evangelique.
Hi. Hi, thank you also, Ma, for having me on the show today. I am Evangelique Adams. I have 2 beautiful kids, a pigeon pair, a girl and a boy. Obviously, that's a pigeon pair.
Yes.
But my daughter is 5 years old and my son is 4 years old. I am literally just a freelancer in anything called art. But mostly now focusing as a writer for a magazine called Working Moms. So that's very exciting for me now to give a bit more about mothers on a platform like that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for coming, Evangelique. I know you have your own show on a Friday afternoon, but you are here with me today because I needed your testimony. Right, and that is how we help one another, right, guys? So without wasting any time, there's a saying that goes, God cannot be present all over, and therefore he chose mothers, right? That is why we are here, because the Bible says God is all over. But this saying is, because God can be all over with your child, now God made mothers, and that is why we're here. And the relationship between mothers and children are very special. And that is actually, you can say it's true. It's truth. A mother means the world to a child. It is she who protects, nourishes, and bestows a child with love and care. And having these two beautiful ladies here with me today, I really would like to just ask them, as we're going to discuss this topic, because I know as a mother, we face so many challenges when it comes to our children. And with our children, it's financial pressures. It is a lot of other challenges, on a daily basis. Some of us face health challenges. Some of us face rebellion children challenges. So those are challenges that we face on a daily basis. But today I have these two beautiful ladies with me, and they both went through challenges. And I was intrigued with Arlene's post one day. It had me in tears when I read what the reality of your story. And I said to myself, this story needs to go out there for people to know that, hey, you look at the person, you think everything is together, and this is what the person's going through. You know what I'm saying? And that is why this show, and Talk with Joan is real. We are real on the show because I believe in authenticity. So that is why I believe in realness. So I would really like you, if you look back on your journey, right? I know Evangelique also, her firstborn, she had challenges with her. So I just want you to a little bit give your testimony and just tell us a little bit, what did you go through? Seeing that it was your first child. If you can just tell me a little bit, or tell the audience a little bit about what you went through. You gave birth to the child, and, afterwards things happened. Who's going to start first?
You can go.
Arlene.
Arlene can go, yeah.
So I had Ezra in 2017. I think we had the same year,
Yeah,
hey?
we were pregnant
Because
together, yeah.
Scarlett is 5 as well.
Wow.
Normal pregnancy, everything was fine. I had a natural pregnancy. I breastfed for the longest time. I did the most that I knew how to do as a first-time mother. By the time he turned 1, he wasn't saying any words. So we got concerned, took him to the pediatrician, and said, no, everything is fine. I mean, he's met all of his physically developmental milestones, but he's just not talking. He's not saying any words. He's not babbling or saying anything that sounds like something, that he's supposed to say. And she had said that she thinks that he may have autism, but she can't say. We need to go to a pediatric specialist. So we went to a pediatric specialist. She said she can't diagnose him, doesn't look like he has autism. So she gave us the next steps to do, which is very generic steps, which is speech therapy, occupational therapy. And we did that, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited. And long story short, we are still waiting for him to talk. He is a normal little boy. He is big. He plays properly.
Yes.
He does all the things that he's supposed to do, but he just isn't talking yet. He doesn't have a diagnosis.
I like what you say, yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we know that he will talk.
Yeah.
We just don't know when he's going to talk. So he is undiagnosed special needs right now.
Okay.
We have him in I get so emotional when I talk about him, but we have him in a special needs school where he does therapy basically to teach him how to communicate, and until he gets to the point where he does talk. But that is our story with him. I think for the longest time I blamed myself. As a mother, you always blame yourself, even if you have a child that talks and thrives and
That's
does
true, yeah.
everything. You'll think, what did I do? What should I have done? What could I have done? Should we have taken him earlier? Should we have put him in a special needs school earlier? Should we have done this? Should we have done that? But I think I'm just of the opinion with Ezra that he's ours
Yes, absolutely.
because we can do this.
Absolutely.
And because God feels that we can handle him. He was given to us for a reason. And it's very difficult to find mothers that have special needs children that are, first of all, open about it and that are saying, my child has speech delay, my child has autism, my child is deaf and has cochlear implants. It's difficult to find mothers like that. So
It's very true.
yeah, so this kind of road is actually a very
Lonely road.
It's a very, very lonely road. And also for him, it's lonely for Ezra because he can't talk.
Absolutely.
He can't communicate. So he doesn't have children his age that he can
Can
play
communicate
well
with.
with and, and interact well with. But I think now at this point of our journey, only now are we at a point where I have friends and connections with mothers and people that have special needs children and that walk a similar journey, and that he's now at a point where he's getting friends and he's friendlier and it's better now. But I think also I've matured to the point where I'm like, it's not my fault. This is not my fault that this is how it is.
Yes.
It's just our journey.
Yes.
And fighting against it is not going to help anything.
Absolutely.
But embracing it and embracing him and loving him through it is the thing that's gonna get us to where we need to be.
Yeah. And it's important not to blame yourself, because did you have anything to do with it? You know, I always ask that question. You did everything right. You know what I'm saying? Everything went like normal. And therefore, God is God. You know, we cannot blame ourselves for things that happens to us. Yeah. So it's so vitally important. And I like what you say, that it becomes a lonely road due to the fact that you don't find people out there who's really real.
Yeah.
With their testimonies, with their stories. Yeah. And therefore we have the Inside Show, because we believe that, you know, there's so many things happening in this world with us as people. And we're going through so many things. And therefore, we have to help someone out there who cannot come and just talk. So you give them the courage to talk. You know what I'm saying?
And I think the most important thing for me, Pastor Joan, is to know that you aren't alone.
Yes,
you
never
are not
alone.
You're not the only mother. You're not the first. You're
Yes.
not going to be the last.
Yes.
There are hundreds, if not thousands, millions of people that go through the same thing. People are just scared to talk.
Absolutely.
Scared to share.
Absolutely.
And I was always of the opinion that you share when you are at the end of it, when you're out of it.
Yeah.
So I'll share when he talks, because then God is going to get the glory
Absolutely,
that we
yes.
came through.
Amen.
And that we're at the end of this. But I just figured that same God is the God that's getting me through,
And
that can get somebody else through as well.
I'm one who really believes that, that one day for sure we will get this testimony that he talks.
Definitely.
We will just hear. And now with the little one there, I'm sure he's going to just, one day, woo, goodness. Can you imagine that day when he says, Mommy, woo, yeah, I don't know that feeling. Now, I want to come over to Evangelique. Seeing that Evangelique actually, she has also a special needs child. I don't know whether I can call it a special needs child, because this child is like, she's all over the show.
It's special needs because the work to get there is never ending.
Yes.
So that's one of the biggest perceptions that people actually make, that once you got your cochlears, you can now hear and be done with it. But yesterday, Scarlett had therapy. And for a long time, I was never emotional about it, because I've been sharing my story from the very first day. And I got a lot of backlash. Like you say, when you do speak about it, you have normal moms sending you messages. Take that off, you're making yourself feel weak, making yourself look weak. If you speak about the difficulties, you have normal moms. Surprisingly, that's the ones that said, "Ah, man, get over it," those kind of things. But people don't realize the amount of DMs you get when you share your difficulty, because people do need to feel that I'm not in it alone. And like I was saying, people have the perception after the cochlear implant, your child can hear and everything. And yesterday we went to therapy, and after a long time we had like not therapy for Scarlett, but more therapy for the parents. And for the first time ever, there is now technology that can allow us to hear what Scarlett hears. And when they played it, myself and Ashley got so emotional because it sounds like nothing. It's just like... And the thing is, the therapist said, it's amazing what the cochlears do to allow this child to make sense of it. And never feel that you're doing something wrong if your child takes a bit longer, because this is what they're actually hearing. And they call it the simulation. So we couldn't make out at all what the simulation was saying. And then when they replayed what the lady was actually saying, you'd be shocked that the child can make up those words with what they're actually hearing.
Sure.
And all the time, myself and Ashley has always done research about people that had hearing, lost their hearing, so they know what it is to have hearing. They can speak normal and everything, and now get the cochlear implants. And we've always learned that they said, yes, it sounds like a robot. You can't make out what it says and everything. But as a parent, to hear that yourself, it was really something that, you know, it takes you back to the very first point when you found out. And it has been 5 years for us now, about 4 years. Scarlett now has
Don't you want to, just for the people who maybe don't know her journey?
So, like Arlene said, by the time Scarlett turned 1, same thing. We realized that there's nothing coming from Scarlett. She can't walk. Her balance was totally off. When she does try to walk, she can't take more than 2 steps. And it bothered me as a mother, because at the time when I was working, you're off the whole December. So we had a nanny, and that's one of the, like you said, you blame yourself for so many things. And we had a nanny, but because I was at home, I got to be with Scarlett most of the time. And like any mother, when you do go to the bathroom, you leave the door open because it's a 1-year-old. Scarlett started screaming, "Mummy, mummy, mummy," out of the room, down the passage, past the bathroom. The more I'm saying, "Scarlett, here I am," the more she carries on walking, crying, until she hit the end of the house. I'll never forget the picture of the door, our wooden door, the front door. And when she got there, I was walking behind her all this time, and she turned around, still "Mummy, mummy." And by the time she turned around, she started laughing. So her cry immediately went to a laugh. And that's when I found Ashley, and I said, I think something's wrong with Scarlett. I've been following her the whole time, and she can't pick up that I'm behind her. And like everybody else, the child is only 1 year old. Some people take longer to speak, some people this, some people that. And you'll hear people say, my child was 3 years old and then they only started speaking. My child was 4. My uncle this, you know, you hear all the stories in the world about your family members.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where Scarlett really liked the Hoopla Kids. And I'll never forget, she liked this one song specifically that Ben the dog sings. And I put it on mute, but she was still dancing. And that was something that I was like, how's she dancing if there's actually no sound? She's just copying the moves on the screen. I found Ashley again and I told him and everything. And like people convinced him that my son spoke when he was 3 and everything like that. And I must say that's where I'm really grateful for my father, in terms of I had sleepless nights, and then one day Ashley just picked up the phone and said, Dad, Vanji thinks there's something wrong with Scarlett.
Yeah.
And that same week, we phoned him maybe the Monday. The Wednesday, the 25th of January, we took Scarlett for a hearing test. And they put something in her ear that made a frequency sound. And myself and Ashley were standing in the room. This device is in Scarlett's ear. We can hear it, and she doesn't even flinch. She's just sitting there. So they do it on both sides. From there, I literally just walked out of the room. I couldn't handle it because my biggest fear, it became real, basically. We went through all the different tests in order for her to get a cochlear implant. At that moment when that happened, we were lucky enough to know another couple that has a deaf child and also got cochlear implants. And they explained it to us. And as much as people explain it to you, you don't want to accept that it's real.
That's
because
so true.
you know, like Arlene said, you do everything in your best as a mother. You even put the perfect temperature water in, you know, that little duck thing you put in the water, is the water temperature right as your first child. You overdo everything. And to know that that happens to your first child, honestly, with my experience, we would have never ever had a second child. But by the time we found out Scarlett is deaf, I was already 8 months pregnant with Isaiah. So they're only 15 months apart. And yeah, so it went from there. We found out later that deafness could have been caused by a virus called the CMV. I can't pronounce the full name, so you can Google the CMV. But it's like the symptoms of CMV is flu, basic cough, fever, all those kind of things. And there was a time when Scarlett was really sick with fever and a cold and all those kind of things. And it can come through breast milk. And that is, as much as I know there's a lot of kids that is normal from breast milk, but I am such a huge advocate against breast milk, because after everything I tested myself as well for CMV, and it did turn out that I did have CMV in my, however it works in your body, and Isaiah was actually born with the antivirus of it. But if you do breastfeed, I do believe go test yourself first. Don't be ignorant to certain things like that. I understand they say breast milk is the best thing ever, but I feel like they don't tell us things that can go wrong with breast milk. And then the other thing is, it can come through, you know, mothers, please don't feel that you have the right to clean someone else's child's tummy with your spit by, you know, put it inside it, because it can come through like that as well. I had the whole blame thing. I thought about everything. There was a lady in church that put her fingers in Scarlett's mouth when she was teething. I blame that lady for so many years. I blame myself for the breastfeeding. I blame any person that cleaned the bottle after the bottle filled, those kind of things. So as much as she's a special needs child, there is awareness beyond the deafness as well. It's how to prevent certain things as well.
And I actually never ever knew, to be quite honest, for all the years that I am a mother, I never knew that these things exist, like the CMV stuff and stuff like that, no? Because we were taught that we have to breastfeed. We have to, you know, and it was cheaper and it was healthier and stuff like that.
And you lose weight faster.
Yeah, but you really do.
But they don't tell you your boobs sag or whatever.
Just choose your battles. Do you want to be fat or do you want sagging?
What do you want? What do you want? So that is something that I only learned with Scarlett's situation. You know, I never knew that something like that can happen. And only now I know that, what? It's amazing to find out in this 21st century that things like that happen. So I don't really know whether it happens, it happened before. It must have.
I think it does. I've heard that if you have CMV and you aren't pregnant or breastfeeding, it's not harmful. But if you have CMV when you are pregnant and breastfeeding, it can cause severe disabilities in your child.
I could never understand why, when Scarlett went deaf, every single doctor we went to afterwards, because we did CT scans, we did MRI scans, we did all those kind of things. I never understood every single doctor that we've ever, when we walk out of the room,
Sure.
they'd say, "You're lucky she's just deaf." And I told Ashley all the time, how can these people say I'm lucky that Scarlett is deaf? And then later, through our research, we found out that some kids go blind, they go deaf, some can't even feed themselves, some can't walk, some can't. There's so many levels, like you say, to it. We met somebody when we go to our therapy sessions, so we had three therapy sessions a week in the beginning with occupational therapy because Scarlett wouldn't touch anything.
Yeah.
And those kind of stuff. And now we're at least down to one. So it doesn't end. She's going to go to therapy until she's an adult. But we were shocked that when kids come in after Scarlett for the exact same things, there's some that's actually in wheelchairs and stuff like that. So my understanding only came, you're lucky your child is only deaf. It made the journey not lighter, but it made you feel slightly less weaker in terms of what could have been to what we have now.
Sure. So how did you guys feel when, actually, because this is your firstborn, you know, while you're pregnant, you're looking forward, you know, to spend time with this child and to play with the child and stuff like that. Not that you are not doing it today, but I mean, just to communicate and to have a normal child. You know what I'm saying? So I would really like you to just explain to me that situation when you found out and you were looking forward as a young girl. Any person, you know, wants to get married as a girl, and you're looking forward to actually raise your children. You know what I'm saying? How did it feel seeing that it is both your firstborn? How did you feel when you found out?
I felt like maybe I missed signs. Maybe I didn't, I wasn't vigilant enough. Maybe I didn't know enough because it was my first. If I had been pregnant before, if I had had a child before, I would have been able to maybe read the signs or see what's happening. And it's devastating. It is devastating because anyone that has a child knows that that is your everything. That is
True,
your heart outside of your body. If anything happens to that child, it's devastating. If your child falls, I remember the first time Ezra burnt his finger. I said to Darren, Ezra had burnt the other day, Pastor John, he burnt his finger on a snackage maker just after I had made a snackage. And Darren couldn't even deal with the amount of pain that Ezra was in because he was like, it's going to be okay. Because it hurts you when your child is hurt, you know? So it's devastating when you get the news that something is wrong with your child, you know, inverted commas, wrong. But I think everybody's journey is different. And if I knew more mothers that spoke more openly about having children with delays or having a child that has special needs, and special needs is a very broad term. It's a very, very broad term. Even children with delays, children with autism. I mean, that's something that we don't even know if Ezra has autism. He may very well have autism, but we don't know that. There's no two children with special needs that are the same. Okay. So if I had a child that was deaf and had cochlear implants, my experience would be similar, but not the same to Evangelique.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, because we are different people. My child is different to hers. I'm a different mother to hers. My journey is different to hers.
Okay.
But I think the thing that I'm learning along this journey is that it is actually very traumatic. People discount that there is trauma in this thing. There's trauma in...
Yes, and that's what I want to get to.
Yeah.
What did you experience when you found out? You know what I'm saying?
There's trauma in finding out that your child can't hear. There's trauma in finding out that there's a reason that your child can't speak, you know? So I think for me, the feeling was just the feeling of, first of all, denial. I was in denial that anything was wrong.
I suppose everybody goes into denial. The majority people will go into denial.
Yeah, it was denial, and it was hurt.
And don't forget, Arlene, also with when it comes to Christian families, you feel like but I'm a child of God.
Yeah. Yeah.
This must not happen to me.
That was my first question. I said to Darren when we got home from that first visit with the pediatrician, I said to him, God wouldn't do this to us.
Yeah.
God wouldn't do this to
Yeah.
us. And I said, no, God wouldn't do this to me after taking my parents
Yeah.
from me at the age that he did. He wouldn't do this to me.
Yeah.
I was in such denial, Pastor Joan. But now I'm just at the point where it's like, it is what it is.
Absolutely.
This is our journey. And if I stay in denial and sit in that
Yes,
denial.
yes, it's
and
gonna make you
don't-
miserable.
Yeah, not just that. It's no good for my son. Because if I don't take the steps that need to be taken for him to get the
Yes,
help
girl.
that he needs, for him
Absolutely.
to start moving along his journey so that he can get to the point where he communicates and he speaks, it's just, it's no good for me, it's no good for him.
Sure. And with Evangelique?
What was the question again? Sorry, it was
How did you feel?
How did you feel? Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like you say, I took the Christian path. I blame God. I blame the family I'm in. I blame, and then you start questioning, what am I not doing right in terms of, I, for lack of a better term, I had so much hatred towards God. I had hatred towards church. I can't tell you how many things I felt at that time, because I was a Sunday school teacher from the age of 16, and I felt like I've been looking after other people's kids for most of my life. So from 16, having my first child at 26, it's like all those years, and at that time still being a Sunday school teacher, I felt like, how could you do this to me? I'm not like a crèche teacher. I am literally a Sunday school teacher teaching kids God's word every single day, trying to lead them to the right path, giving parents the opportunity to receive from God while your kids is not there. And I took it as, this is how you repay me.
Right.
I also took it from a point of, I stayed abstinent from sex my whole life until the day I got married. I got married at the age of 25. There's not many people that can do that.
Yes.
And from a young age, I always said, I've had a boyfriend for years where opportunities came up, and I said, this is not what I want for my life. I really want my first time to be with my husband, someone I
Right.
love, someone that put a ring on my finger. And I said, this is how you pay me back. And all of those things came to my mind, as in, I've seen my parents take other kids' parts
Yeah.
over my side, because it's a church child. Church people come first. If there's no furniture in the house, the furniture's at church, because church comes first. I can have the same problem somebody else in the church had, and you don't even know I had that issue because we're too busy helping church people.
Right.
So I felt a sense of loneliness growing up as well, because it was always church people.
Right.
And I felt like that was a sacrifice from my side to allow my parents to be other people's parents. And I said, this is how you pay me back. So for me, before, I didn't even blame myself to the extent of what you're saying when you're in denial. I was never in denial. I accepted it from day one, and I was forcing Ashley to accept it. But for me, I took the side of, I can do the world's things, in terms of I can accept that it happens from the world. I can go to therapy as I'm supposed to from the world and everything. But my side came from, how could you do this, God? I've been living right. I've been doing things. Yes, here and there I went off track, but it was silly things going off track. And if anything else, I always say most of my friends, I introduced them to God.
Yes.
I've met someone at a party on a Sunday, that same person is in church, and from there they stop smoking, they stop drinking. I have many friends that I can mention where I can say I brought them to God's house, and this is how you repay me back. So that was my side, where it took me, I think I sat in church for 2 years straight, not praying once, not singing, not anything. I just sat here as a shell. And then Arlene would know, because our situations were similar, even though she didn't speak about it in the beginning, we had that connection, and that's how we spoke. And we found ourselves sitting in the mother's room complaining the whole time. I don't want to say complaining, but it's a comparison.
Yeah.
Is your child doing this yet? Is your child doing this yet? And it would become that. And you go home still, I don't care that I didn't hear the word right now. It was I'm sitting with somebody who's going
Because
through
there's a concern.
something that I'm going through. So for me, finding out, I really didn't go in the denial side. I went into the blame God, blame church. If I did this, if I did that, would it have been different? Because I also have so many friends that do fall pregnant outside of marriage,
And their
and their children are
completely
perfectly
normal.
normal.
Yeah, and
They
you ask those
smoke, they
questions,
drink,
right,
and their
you
kids
do.
come
Yeah.
out with green eyes.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
you ask
Can make you
yourself,
very angry.
Yeah.
you ask, and it's not that you're comparing.
Yeah.
It's just if this is supposed to be the word, and it is the living word kind of a thing, why is it not working for me, but it's working for people who don't even see God?
Yeah.
So that's where my side was in terms of,
But looking back now, today, you're more mature, right? You accepted the fact that, listen, I'm raising a special needs child, right? Don't you think sometimes that you are chosen because you can be trusted with this child?
Yeah. I had coffee with a friend of mine once. I don't know, I think she's very sensitive. And she had sensed that I was in a very low place. And she said to me, no, let's go for coffee. She just wants to speak to me. And she had said to me, can't you see why God gave Ezra to you? Can't you see? And I said, what do you mean, can't you see? She said, you're the most encouraging person I've met. Every time I see you, you'll say to me, you can do this, man.
Yes.
You know, you've got the ability. You can do this.
Yeah.
Like, always cheering me on, always cheering me on. If anyone can do this with this little boy, it's you. And I never saw that. I just thought to myself, I was a failure. I failed this child. I never read to him enough. He was in front of the TV too much. I didn't do things with him in time. He doesn't have enough friends. It's because he doesn't have cousins, and he doesn't have siblings. And so many people told me, oh, my sister's children raised my son. That's how he talks so well, because he's got all these kids around him. We sent him to school too late. We did this, we did this. I always came up with the excuses, but I never thought that there's a reason that he's mine.
Okay.
There's a reason that he's ours.
Yes.
And yesterday, while I was sitting and playing with him, he came home with homework, and the teachers gave us his toys and like do certain things with him. You know, it's a therapy kind of thing with
Okay.
him. And as I did it with him, I just sat and I was like, wow, Lord, I can see why you gave him to me. I can see why he's ours. I can see why he's mine. And I had said to Darren the other day, you know, like I watch other parents with normal, quote unquote, normal children, because
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything as normal.
Yeah.
Every child has their thing. Every person has their
Absolutely.
thing. But I watch them with their children, and I feel like sometimes I feel like they are very short with their kids. They
Yes,
lose their tempers
yes,
very
yes,
quickly.
yes.
And I have all the patience in the world for my son, for both of my
Yes.
children. And I just said to Darren, Yessie, when I look at these people, I can see, and I actually can pat myself on the back and say, you've got patience.
Absolutely.
You've got the patience. You've got the stamina. You've got the demeanor to do this with
Absolutely.
your son. So there's definitely a reason, as difficult as it is to accept, as difficult as it is to say, Lord, I see why. I can
Yeah.
see why. And
Yeah.
I am convinced that this is for Ezra's testimony. This is for him when he eventually goes out and speaks, and eventually goes out and say, this is what God did for me, in spite of the circumstances that I had, in spite of not being able to speak until the age of X.
Sure,
You
yeah.
know, I really believe it's not our testimony, it's his.
Absolutely.
And it's the way he's going to be able to give
Absolutely.
God the glory in his life.
Right. So I also, because I know that a mother's love is beyond, right? And now the challenge is here, and the child is here, right? So how do you balance, like, because it's a special needs child, because I've seen if there are parents with special needs children, they normally, or some parents, I'm not going to generalize it, some parents actually put the child on a pedestal. They don't discipline the child. They don't do anything because you feel that this is... How do you balance that? That, listen, this is a normal child. It's just this one defect.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? How do you guys balance it?
I just treat him like he's a normal boy. Treat him like he's normal. He gets threatened with the slipper. He gets his hits on his hands as well when he's normal. He gets shouted at. He doesn't get screamed at. He gets shouted at as well when he's misbehaving. He gets disciplined when he doesn't behave. He doesn't get sweets. He doesn't get his privileges.
Okay, yes.
All those things. So we treat him as normal as we can.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
And from your side, Vange?
I also say a bit normal, but I am going to be honest. There is sometimes when I have to realize that because she started hearing late, and people, you need to also know that once she got her cochlear implants, for the first 8 months she wouldn't wear them, and then when she got used to them, she had to go to therapy to understand. So they had to rebuild her cognitive skills. They had to rebuild balance. They had to rebuild her speech. So with me, I also had to understand that I can't just discipline her because she doesn't understand yet. So once we started working on her understanding, her cognitive skills, and how she can communicate, then I became slightly more strict. But before that, I did let it slide a few times, which then afterwards obviously had its struggles because now she expects that treatment all the time. But now she's at the place where she understands.
Yes.
So my understanding came late, which means my discipline came slightly later. The other thing is also she has a brother who's practically the same age, and it became difficult because then I did form a soft spot for Isaiah, because how can I discipline the one and not the other one? So in times Isaiah got away with a lot because I can't tell him no and allow Scarlett to continue doing what she was doing. But then at times I had to, pull myself together and say, Scarlett needs to be disciplined because you just told Isaiah no. So Scarlett needs to get the no also, because I also started developing a spot for Isaiah that was a bit too soft, because I felt that when he was born, Scarlett had an operation the day before.
Didn't have that time.
And I had a C-section with Scarlett. Scarlett couldn't walk, she couldn't sit, she couldn't inside. Basically, I had 2 pup babies at once. And our concentration was so much with Scarlett going to therapy 3 times a week. Isaiah is there in that bag, following you everywhere around. But there was never a point of connection. And when I came to the realization of it, I did have the fact of, for lack of a better term, I'm skipping him off. So I compensated in terms of behavior, in terms of send me around and those kind of things. But it was my way of just leveling the ground. But trying to get it back to normal is a bit difficult, but I'm there now. Yeah.
So now how do you guys manage these children with other children? How do you keep them away from the other children, or do you leave them to be themselves?
I think the mistake that Darren and I made in the beginning was keeping Ezra away from other children. Especially, I think more recently, he does this thing where, because he can't communicate, he'll go up to the child and kind of want to push them, but doesn't push to hurt, like push to say, like, get their attention kind of thing. Yeah. So now we're just at a point where it's like, let him go to the children. The children will learn about him. Even in children's church, they'll learn about him. The friends that we have that have children, they'll learn about him and get used to him. And it's like, it's just that one that doesn't talk yet. So he, it's just Ezra. We know Ezra like that. So we're at the point now where we leave him, but we do have to watch him, because the other day a friend, so embarrassing. Your children can embarrass you, Pastor Joan. A few weeks ago, a friend of ours came to visit, and we were sitting outside and eating. And Ezra loves playing by the pool, so he loves water and sand.
Wow.
And her child is, I think she's 3. She's turning 3 this year. And he wanted her to go into the pool. It was still warm that time. And he pushed her, but in the deep end. And her father grabbed her. He caught her by the hand just before
my
she fell in.
word.
So he pushes to that point. So we have to watch him so carefully. But he just wants to play. He just wants to have friends. So now
And you don't know how to express it.
Yes, he
you
doesn't
don't know how to say
express
it.
that
Yeah.
yet. So we leave him, but we watch him carefully as well. I don't think that keeping him away from children is going to do anything for him. He must learn that there are other kids, and that there is a way to play, and that there is a manner.
So did you guys think about something else with regards to communication? Like sign language stuff?
So at school, they're teaching him a system called PICS with pictures. So they'll show him pictures, and then he'll communicate that way. But for the most part, the way that he communicates right now is he shows us. He'll point, he'll pull us to where he wants to be, that kind of thing. So he does have his way of showing us what he wants, and we know him. I mean, you know your child, what your child wants.
Yeah.
For the most part. But yeah, he is learning other means to communicate in the meantime.
Okay. I know with you it's different now, because Scarlett grew, and she can.
We were lucky that Scarlett was already in a school when we found out about the situation. We were also lucky that the school she was in, they actually went, when we found out, they actually went to therapy sessions with us to know how to deal with her at school. She did go through a tantrum stage, because like you say, it's the only way they know how to communicate. So she would just throw tantrums constantly. But because the teachers went to therapy as well, it helped a lot. Now where we are is the therapist and Scarlett's teacher as a relationship via WhatsApp or whatever, so they keep in touch with where therapy is at the moment. What's also nice is it's really one thing that we're really so proud of, that Scarlett is with her peers. She's in big school, and the teachers continue to go to therapy. They continue to help her. What's nice is the school Scarlett is in doesn't have more than 8 kids in a class, and that helps a lot, because Scarlett's not allowed to be in a space with more than a certain amount of kids. So in her class at the moment, they literally free.
If you can just say why she's not allowed to be in crowds.
Because of her cochlears, and like I explained in the beginning, what she actually hears. If there's a TV on, something as simple as you'll notice when the kettle boils, she won't hear you speaking, because she can only take in one sound at a time. So in terms of schooling, if there's too many people in one class speaking at the same time, or the teacher is too far from her or something like that, she won't grasp anything. So she needs to be in a very small space. And you'll notice when there is a lot of people, she's quiet.
Yeah,
she doesn't speak to anybody. So if family comes over, family lunches and stuff, she doesn't speak at all. But it's just because she doesn't know how to communicate, because she can't hear.
Especially if she don't know the people that well.
Especially if she doesn't. So other thing is she prefers then to take her cochlears off, and then she lip reads.
Yeah.
So because we didn't do sign, in the beginning when we found out, our therapist told us not to do sign, because of cochlears you start developing language. If you do take sign with it and the child is more confident in signing, which like with Scarlett's personality, she doesn't like to be wrong. So if she did take sign, she would have focused on sign and not develop language. So she still can't sign, but from when she turns 6 years old, we are going to try signing, because with ESCOM, if you don't charge your cochlears, it is difficult to communicate
yeah.
with them, because you
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
charge your cochlears
Yeah,
every
Oh,
night.
that also.
So we can't always expect it to lip read all the time. And then with the masks, I'm so against masks during the COVID, because she can't communicate
Yeah.
with the mask on because she can't lip
Yeah,
read.
yeah.
So yeah, we let her play with kids all the time. She did have her tantrums, but we never ever took her away. I must be honest, from me personally, when she does do that, I did pick her up and go home. So when she throws a tantrum, it angered me so much. I pack our bags and we going home, because I'd rather be isolated where I know how to control the situation than
Where
be
it's
around
comfortable.
people where it's
Yeah,
comfortable.
especially when you're in restaurants and stuff like that, and
I
she wanted
literally
something.
pack
Yeah.
up and
Yeah. So now with the future ahead of you guys, right? With all these challenges that you faced, can you a little bit just explain to us? So now, with all this, you are an entrepreneur, you are doing your own thing. I mean, how do you get that right?
You have to, you don't have a choice. I think people don't also know how expensive it is to have a child that has these kinds of
Yes,
needs.
very true.
I can only imagine for you, Van,
Very true.
that has to therapy and the
Yeah.
price of the surgery and
It's very
all these other
expensive.
things. It is very expensive. So the school that we have Ezra in is more than a normal school, like a traditional
Okay.
school. So we have to work in order for him to be able to go there
Oh, okay.
and get therapied and learn and do all the stuff that he has to do, and then still do whatever we need to do with him when he gets home. I don't think that you have a choice. You just have to play the best with the cards that you have in your hand. At the end of the day, life is just
Yeah,
like
very
that.
true.
That is just how life is. So it's difficult because you have to do your best for your child. You still have to be a wife.
Yes.
You still have to be a mother to another
yes.
child. You still
Yes.
have to be an entrepreneur and
Yes.
all these things.
And when
So-
people talk about where the
Yeah.
children, throughout the phases of their lifespan, people talk, is your child talking already?
Yeah,
You know what I'm
normal
saying?
Parents compare
Yes,
their kids. Oh, my
yes.
child started speaking at
Yeah.
3. Oh, my
Absolutely.
child's using this word at 5. And they do that in front of you, not
Yes.
realizing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's also one of the things that I've realized is that people can be so insensitive, especially mothers. And I find it difficult to understand how a mother can be insensitive to another mother.
Yes.
Because I remember sitting with someone and she had said, why are you so worried about Ezra? Why are you so worried about him? I said, at that point, he was 3. I said, he's 3 and he's not talking. Have you ever
Been
tried
in a
to
situation
do
like this?
something with a child, with a toddler that doesn't talk? So she said to me, but who in the world doesn't talk? Everybody talks. He'll talk eventually. Who doesn't talk? So I said, there are people in the world that are mute, that don't talk. There are people like that.
Absolutely.
And that's a fear that's constantly in the back of my mind as well. I was like, what if he never talks? But I know that he will talk. I know the promise that God has given us for Ezra. I know that. But I just think it's so insensitive to say, why are you worried? Why are you worried? Why are you worried? Scarlett is fine.
But why would
are
you
worried?
think people are so insensitive? Don't you think that people are not educated?
I think it is a lack of education, but
yeah.
I think for me, I think at the
I mean,
end of the
it has
day,
nothing to do with
I just think
education.
it's insensitivity.
Yeah.
I think it's just very insensitive. And that same person that I'm telling you about was a friend of mine. We used to get together, 3 of us, 3 moms, and we all had kids that were the same age. And one day, Darren and I went to Mug and Bean for a work meeting with one of our service providers. And I saw the 2 of them sitting together with the kids alone without me. I never got an invite. And in my heart, I thought, is this because my child doesn't speak? That we are now getting left out of this equation? Is it because he's
It's
a bit
extremely
more-
lonely road.
It's
as a
very
mother as
difficult.
well.
And I think that's,
So you think mothers
that's
can
a reality.
Exclude you as well.
Definitely.
Isolate you.
It's not I think it's a no, Pastor
No
Joan.
ways.
For sure, people will definitely exclude you.
Honestly.
Because you are harder work. It's harder work to have an Ezra
And
that is more
also-
special needs, or a Scarlett that's special needs in a play group or a situation.
It's also a point of with having a child that you can't just leave anywhere. Like with Scarlett, she has devices.
Yeah.
So devices can't get wet. You must know how to change your batteries when
Yeah.
it's flat. You must know how to change your mic. You must know all those kind of things. So there's literally a handful of people that know how to do that. And if that two people is not available, you don't really have a choice but to take your child. I can tell you, I had a lot of friends, but in my journey, I lost all my friends because they're not willing to understand. Number two, like you say, some people, and it's funny to say this, but in the Black community, meaning anybody of color, I don't know why it's frowned upon so much if there's something wrong with your child, as if you're going to stick their kids on or something.
Yeah.
But you can feel we don't really want you around. And now that Scarlett can speak a bit, people forget that she's deaf. And you start noticing how people slowly accept you again. And then you do question yourself, do I not have friends because of my
this.
child? Yeah.
Because do you think parents feel that, oh no, if my child associate with this child,
It's going to slow them
it's
down.
gonna, yeah.
I don't know. I can't speak to it because the people I connect with kids, like people that I am with, that I do dates with Ezra and that are friends with Ezra, are people that I'm connected with personally. So I don't know, we aren't at a place yet where we have play dates from school and that kind of thing because he's still new to the school.
Oh, okay.
So I can't speak out of my own experience, but I think I just have made a very conscious decision to keep people around me that understand him
Okay.
and that understand our situation. And a friend of mine who has a son that has autism, very close friend of mine,
Okay.
had said to me, go where it's comfortable.
Absolutely.
And that really struck me, and
Yeah.
it really
Yeah.
resonated with
Yeah.
me. So now we go where it's comfortable.
Yes, absolutely.
Where he's comfortable, where we
Yes.
are comfortable, where I
Yes.
know if Israel's going to throw sand
Yes.
out and
Yes.
do
It's not
whatever.
gonna be a problem.
Yeah, it's not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
They aren't going to be like,
Yeah.
can you get your child? Can
Yeah,
you
yeah.
check your child? You know, because there are some people that are like that. So we go where it's comfortable. We go where people know us and understand us and love him and understand him. And I think that's what gives us the peace. And even if that's just a handful of people, that's all that we need.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, beloveds, thank you so much for tuning in today. I know there's a Valentine Guana on the line. She says, so insightful. Every time you share your journey with Scarlett, is like I'm hearing it for the first time. Thank you for sharing, Vanji. Then Darren August says, as always, so proud of you, lover. What an honor to have you as our boy's mom. Love doing life and family with you. Awesome. Thank you so much. And then Victoria Twala says, Talk with Joan Thursdays is the best show. We learn so much about this real issues. Welcome back. Talk with Joan. Good to hear and see you again. Both of our guests are amazing. We are so proud of you. And thank you so much. I know there's a lot of others who's going to watch this afterwards because you're back at work, right? The majority of people that normally watches Talk with Joan are back at work, and now they watch afterwards. And because they didn't have a show on a Thursday, for a long time, but we're back, right? So now I just want to ask you, what is the future ahead for you personally? What do you think? What do you aspire in the years to come, irrespective of the challenges that you face?
For me, I see us being successful business people.
Amen.
And living a soft life. I just want to live a soft life.
True.
That is really what I want to do, and just shine for the glory of God. Let
Yes.
people see God when they see us,
Yes.
see Jesus when they see us, and ask us, what is it that you have that we don't, so
Yes,
that we
yes.
can testify of the goodness of God.
Awesome. Wonderful.
For me, I would say, I know it sounded like a lot of complaints while I was speaking, but one thing I really want to share though is, and this is going to my future as well, is that through Scarlett's situation, before I was working in areas that I hated a lot, you just study certain things to make money
Yeah.
and certain things like that, and you don't really know what it is that you want to do. And through Scarlett's situation, I think that I really found who I was, because I was very lost before that. And as much as it's so much negativity and challenging going through it, it allowed me to become somebody who is outspoken, somebody who doesn't care what the next person thinks, somebody that if we don't gel, we don't gel, but this is how I move forward.
Right.
And it has come to a point where I am somebody that just wants to speak about all of these things to help the next person
Yes.
through, in terms of I don't need to get anything out of it, but I just want people to know that there is people like them, but they're making something of it. And like I couldn't have a normal job with all the therapies. So me growing in my field is a lot to do with me not being able to have a 9 to 5. And I see that growing bigger and better. I have so many plans ahead of me, and I really see it coming to the soft life, as Arlene says.
Don't we all want that, eh?
That's
yeah.
what we need, Pastor Joan.
Yeah, true, man. Listen, we came to the end of the show. I am so grateful that you could share your testimony and, your challenges with your children with us here today. And so many out there who don't even know that you were faced with all this, and now you know. So I have a plea to mums. Please be sensitive, right? You never know what someone else is going through. So just be sensitive when you're around other moms, what I'm saying. And because it's Mother's Day, I have a little poem for you to end the show off. A mother's love is something that no one can explain. It is made of deep devotion and of sacrifice and pain. It is endless, unselfish, and enduring, come what may. For nothing can destroy it or take that love away. It is patient and forgiving, and when all others are forsaking, a mother's love still remains. So I just want to leave you with that and say, you are loved, Mom, and have a beautiful day on Sunday. Happy Mother's Day, and may God bless you and take you further. Thank you, Arlene. Thank you, Evangelique. Thank you so, so much for coming onto the show. I really appreciate you coming here and sharing your stories with us. Well, without further ado, thank you for tuning in. We love you. God loves you best. Go in the peace of the Lord. Mwah.
As I look upon my life, there's a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dreams. As I look upon my life, there's a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dreams.